How much? FIA quadruples its maximum F1 fine to $1 million. Scary, ridiculous, a huge amount of money. F1 drivers stunned by potential seven-figure fine. The maximum fine the FIA can impose on F1 drivers has been quadrupled from €250,000 to €1 million, leading several figures baffled and presumably a bit nervous. This amount has not been reviewed or amended in the last 12 years and does not reflect the current needs of motorsport. It's not clear what offence a driver would have to commit to merit a full seven-figure penalty. 2 weeks ago, Lewis Hamilton was fined €50,000, half of which was suspended, for crossing the live Qatar circuit without permission. That makes it sound like he was just a naughty boy. It's really not a good thing to cross a live track. You don't ever do that, and that fine was completely warranted. It says here as well, back in 2021, Max Verstappen was fined $50,000 for touching Lewis Hamilton's rear wing in Parc Ferme. That's a big no-no as well. Sebastian Vettel was fined €5,000 for riding a scooter back to the pits in Australia. No one's saying that driving a scooter back to the pits will incur a £1 million or €1 million fine. No one's saying that crossing a live track will incur a €1 million fine. All they're saying is, hey, we haven't looked at these fines in ages. We haven't looked at these fines in donkey's years. Let's have a look at the F1 driver salaries. 2023 F1 driver salaries. How much will the likes of Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc earn in 2023? Max Verstappen, $55 million. Lewis Hamilton, $35 million. Leclerc, $24 million. Norris, $20 million. So these guys are all earning over or almost $1 million a race. Then we get down into these guys, Sainz, Perez, Bottas, earning $500,000 per race. Then we get down to these guys that are really struggling. These guys are like hurting. Let's just go right down the bottom. Tsunoda and Sargent, $1 million. So this was one of the points that was made, was a $1 million fine is actually, for some drivers, more than what they're actually earning this year. Now listen, I mean, of course, down this deep end of the pool, Max Verstappen, $55 million a year. And I mean, that's his salary. So that doesn't mean that's what he's earning. That's his salary. So he earns a lot more than that. And let's be clear, so does Tsunoda and Sargent. They earn more than $1 million a year, but that's their salary. What fine could be worth $1 million? This is not driver fines, but it's relevant, I guess, in that it gives some content. So I'll context. So I'll bring this up. 8 largest fines in F1 history. 2010, Ferrari. Ferrari were given a sizable fine for blatantly imposing team orders on Felipe Massa to give victory to Fernando Alonso at the German Grand Prix. This is the Fernando's faster than you incident. Cost them $100,000. US F1, short-lived American-led team, they were fined over $300,000 for going into liquidation before even entering a race. They assured everyone that everything was cool. Things were not cool, and they got fined $300,000 for wasting everyone's time. Racing Point fined $400,000. Racing Point were buying everything off Mercedes, and the FIA changed the rules to say what you can and can't license from another team before it went into effect. Racing Point had licensed or bought off the shelf the Mercedes front brake ducts. And then after that rule came into effect, Racing Point utilized the brake ducts that they had bought. But it turns out they were not in compliance with the rules. So they got fined $400,000. Aston Martin, $450,000 in 2022. That's last year. This is the procedural breach of the cost cap that was introduced. So their procedural breach saw them getting fined $450,000. Ferrari 2002. Here's finally we get to the $1 million mark. What was that for? This was for the Scuderia were hit with a huge fine following the controversial 2002 Austrian Grand Prix where Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher swapped places, exiting the final corner to ensure the German won the race. I guess you're calling it race fixing. I mean, some people would just say this is Formula One racing, baby. Turkish Grand Prix organizers, not even a driver or a team, organizers fined 5 million buckaroonies. Felipe Massa won the 2006 race for Ferrari with his trophy handed to him by Turkish Cypriot leader Mehmet Ali Talat. On television, he was introduced as the president of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. My understanding of the geopolitical situation here is completely cooked, and I won't comment on any of that because I just don't know. But it didn't go down well, and they were fined 5 million smackers. Talking about the cost cap, breaches of the cost cap, this was the big one. Red Bull Racing 2002, 7 million. The aforementioned budget cap introduction in 2021 may have caught 2 teams out. Well, I mean, it did. Constructors champions Red Bull were found to have committed a minor overspend breach of just under $1.9 million. Blah, 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 blah. And they got fined $7 million. So, I mean, more than 3 times what they overspent by. Plus, there were other, other penalties. Bit of a jump from that 7 million to this one. McLaren 2007, $100 million. Not just the largest ever fine in Formula One history, McLaren were given the biggest penalty in any sports history when they were smacked with a $100 million fine in 2007. Spygate became the dominant topic of the season after a McLaren employee was found to have been in possession of detailed documentation regarding the design of the 2007 Ferrari F2007 car. The matter coming to light as a result of the employee's wife going to a photocopy shop in the UK with the documentation, and an employee of the photocopying shop becoming suspicious and contacting Ferrari's Maranello factory. Imagine being that person, earning minimum wage at a fucking Kinko's or whatever, bringing down McLaren to the tune of 100 mil. They described their $100 million fine as eye-watering, and I can only agree. So those are the biggest fines for teams. And we've had some examples of some of the fines that were given to drivers that, they had to cough up 50,000 bones for, walking across a track or touching a car, stuff like that. Like real bad stuff. What I was interested in working out is, we'll do this live. Let's try and put this in some real world perspective. The first thing we have to do is, we can talk about Formula One drivers getting fined $1 million, but what is that in real terms? US income by gender. The median male salary in 2022 was $52,612. The median female salary was $40,000, so 75% of what men earned. First of all, yuck. Hate that. We have to do more to fix that, but can't do average salary because unfortunately there are some asshats up the 1% end of the pool that are throwing the averages off for everybody earning a gazillion dollars. So we can't do average, but we can do median. So we can go $52,000 for a male, $40,000 for a female. Let's work out what a fine would be, what you have to do to get a fine worth that, to lose 1 year worth of salary, right? So if I go USA, fine $50,000, wonder what comes up. I have absolutely not prepared or looked into any of this beforehand. A lot of these fines, unfortunately, a lot of the fines that come up are like sports stars who get fined $50,000 for something. But let's have a look. Oh, this is a good, this is a good one. Let's have a look. You're a Formula One driver earning the smallest salary on the grid. You're earning $1 million, and the new salary, the new cap on fines is $1 million. So you would lose your entire year's worth of salary for doing ? People are still trying to work out what would a fine be? What would you have to do to lose your entire year's salary? But the man on the street in the United States earns $50,000 a year. So let's see what you would have to do in the real world to be fined $50,000. This story from the United States Attorney Office in the District of Vermont. California man. I love the California man game. Have you ever played that? Where you Google California man and your birth date, and whatever comes up is your story. Because there's always a story about a California man doing something crazy. No, Florida man I'm thinking of. Anyway, California man fined $50,000 for illegally importing carvings made from sperm whale teeth and a walrus tusk. Oh my God, look at that. This is a million times better than anything I could have possibly anticipated. Look at this face. The US Fish and Wildlife Service determined that 3 of the carvings were made of sperm whale teeth. These carvings called Tupilaks. In Inuit mythology, Tupilaks are considered a physical representation of supernatural spirits. The 3 C's Tupilaks are depicted below. So there's this, wow, there's like a pig head and then a normal head. Wow. 50 grand for whale's teeth with stuff carved in it. Wow. F1 drivers blast obscene new $1 million maximum fine for offences. Formula One drivers have questioned the FIA's decision to introduce a new maximum fine of €1 million or $1.05 million, calling it obscene and questioning where the money goes. Kevin Magnussen called it ridiculous. Daniel Ricciardo said it was scary to think drivers could be fined so much. It's a huge amount of money. Ferrari Charles Leclerc added, I have no idea what deserves a $1 million penalty. Some drivers are making less than that. True. Where the money goes, this is the bit I wanted to get to. Russell's teammate Lewis Hamilton wanted to know where the money drivers paid in fines to the FIA ended up. Let's make sure 100% of that goes to a cause, he said. There's a lot of money in this whole industry, and there's a lot more that we need to do in terms of creating better accessibility, better diversity, more opportunities for people who wouldn't normally have a chance to get into a sport like this. So many causes around the world. Lewis,
I love you and respect you.
I double love you and double respect you. That's the only way they'll get that million from me, he said. A spokesperson from the FIA explained to The Athletic that all fines paid by competitors across its championships are reinvested to improve motorsport. Well, that's a strange thing to say, because technically, if the FIA collects fines from drivers, then that money goes to the operation of, say, the FIA, which, of course, is a reinvestment in running motorsport. Of course it is, because they're the FIA, that's what they do. I think what they mean, I think what Lewis Hamilton is getting at is it should be invested directly into, grassroots stuff, into promoting Formula One Academy, for example. Let's get some money and more support for, marshals and safety crew. Stuff like that. Not necessarily making faster cars.
The car is bad, we know. Please drive it.
Stuff like that. What's Lewis Hamilton? What's Max Verstappen worried about?
Mate, where's the toilet paper?
He wipes his ass with $1 million every day, is what I've heard. That's just what I've heard. It's just what I've heard.